Okay, MustangResto fans, it's the day after Thanksgiving. It's a cold day here in Connecticut, and I'm out working on the car. You can see I've got this driver's side quarter panel fitted. Nothing's attached, it's just I got some clamps holding things on. But it's starting to fit pretty good. And you know, now the last step to getting it to the point where I think that it's ready to go on this side is what to do along this top edge of the quarter panel. And there are two options that you have. There's a lip on the quarter panel that you could actually maybe slide underneath the sail panel on the car, or you know, the way it works here on our car, maybe we could cut this lip off and then slide the lower portion of this quarter panel underneath the sail panel. And then the third choice is to remove the lead that's in here on the sail panel and then just weld this top edge of the quarter panel onto the car and then put filler over it. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to show you now is how to get this lead off. And I did a little test piece here. When I take the quarter panel off, I'll show you a closer view. But basically I'm going to use a torch to heat it and melt it, and take a brush and brush it off, and then I can come back later with the wire wheel on the grinder and then just grind off the very last little bit. Now lead obviously is it's a hazardous material, it's dangerous, so you want to wear a respirator, and I'm doing this outside. You don't want to breathe any lead fumes or any lead dust from the grinder. You know, you've heard about lead paint and all of those things. You can get lead poisoning. So be careful when you do this. So let me get set up, take the quarter panel off, and we'll start melting the lead out of this seam on the sail panel. Okay, so from this point on in the video, I'm wearing a respirator that has an organics vapor filter on it and a particulate filter, and as a result I can't narrate the video while I'm actually doing the work, so I'm going to narrate it now after the fact over the top of what you're watching. So I have a little propane torch here, and I'm going to light that thing off and use it to melt the lead. You really don't need anything hotter than just propane. You don't need to get MAP gas or acetylene or oxyacetylene. You don't need anything like that. This is just one of those little blue canisters that you can buy at Home Depot and Lowe's. That's where I get them. And it's plenty hot enough to melt the lead that we're going to be removing. So what you do is, you can see I'm just heating up a little small area. You don't want to try and heat up the whole thing all at once. Just do a little area and get all the heat concentrated in that one spot, and that will melt the lead. And then you can see you can just take a wire brush and brush it off. And then you can continue to heat just the area in front of where you're working, and keep that hot edge advancing. There's still a lot of heat in the metal right now. If you touch that, you burn yourself. So that's how you're going to get the lead off. You just keep advancing that hot line that's melting down the seam. And every time you brush it, the lead will just flake off. And because there's no flux on the brush and there's no flux on the rest of the car, the lead doesn't stick to anything. It falls right off, and as soon as it comes off, it solidifies. You can see I look at the brush, but the lead doesn't build up in the brush because, like I said, it doesn't have any flux in it. So just keep going, and you heat it up for a second. You can see when it's ready to melt off. You can just brush it. That helps it come off quicker, and you actually get more of it off than if you tried to just drip it all off. It might sit there and just run and refreeze and run and re-solidify. So by brushing it, you get it all to come off. So I'm just going to progress all the way down to the end of this joint, and then when I get to the end, there's going to be a little bit of lead that's left behind. You can see it's not totally 100% smooth and clean like the part to the left is, but then we'll get the wire wheel out on the grinder and just clean that off. So I'll just let this run out, and when I get the whole thing finished, you'll see I'll come back with the wire wheel, and we'll start to clean up the rest of it that I couldn't melt off with the torch. Alright, so here it is now that I'm done, and here's just a close-up of what it looks like. You can see there's a little bit of residual lead that gets left behind, and you can't get that off with the torch. And like I said, the stuff that drips down onto the car, it doesn't stick. You can see it comes right off in your hand because there's no flux on any of that metal, so the lead doesn't stick. It just comes right off, so don't worry about trying to clean it up. So now we'll get the wire wheel out, and we'll get that going, and we'll start to just grind off the rest of this, and it comes right off. It's not like it's a lot of work to get the rest of that lead that's left behind. So I'm just going to finish cleaning it up with the wire wheel, and then we'll come back and look at it at the end. Alright, so now I'm done with the wire wheel, and we can come over and take a look at it and see it's really nice and clean. It's all bare metal. That's as clean, of any sheet metal in this car that you'll ever see, because this has been protected from exposure since the day it was in the factory when they put the lead on it. Those are all the factory welds on there. And here's the stuff that dripped on the ground in the driveway, and you can see I can just kick it with my foot. It doesn't stick to the asphalt or anything. It doesn't melt into the ground and become a mess. I cleaned it all up with a broom, and there's no sign of any of that stuff out there now. Whoops. Okay, so it had snowed the night before, so it's still a little cool. So now I got the quarter panel reattached on the car, or just mocked up into place, and you can see now that that seam where the lead was gives me a nice groove to put the quarter panel in, and the quarter panel has its own recess on it that I'm pointing out here, and it fits really nice and tight. It's a good fit. This panel lines up well with that sail panel. So what I'm going to do is drill some holes and weld it on. What I'm showing you right here is at the back there's a little bit of a gap or hole at the back, and I can fill that up with a little piece of sheet metal or maybe lead or something. I don't know. We'll fill that up with something. It's not a big deal because that actually goes under the vinyl top. And that's it. Looks good. So come on back and we'll keep working on the sheet metal at the back of the Mustang.